Baseball is back, and the first pitch is on Netflix. The New York Yankees, led by 7-time All-Star Aaron Judge, head to the San Francisco Bay to take on Rafael Devers' San Francisco Giants. This season kicks off with one exclusive opening night game. Watch MLB Opening Night, the New York Yankees versus the San Francisco Giants, live on Netflix. Wednesday, March 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me, taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Congresswoman Claudia Tenney on the phone right now. Congresswoman, we've been talking about a lot of different things, but in the words of John Catsimatidis, what the heck is going down there in Washington? What's the big issue there? Is it just the war, or are people talking about some other stuff as well?
We have a lot going on. Well, obviously, yesterday we had the intelligence leaders and our Tulsi Gabbard, John Ratcliffe, and a couple of generals in to talk about our worldwide threats assessment. I serve on the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Really interesting, a lot of discussion about Iran, but a lot of the threats that we face from the world. And that's what my day was consumed with pretty much yesterday. We had a closed session, and we had a public session as well. Just a really, really interesting what's happening in the world, what President Trump's approach to trying to make the United States safer, and then getting their true threat assessment. And I think people got to see some of the histrionics from some of the Democrats, although many of them were also very reasonable, which is a good sign.
You know, we've been saying on this program, Congresswoman Tenney, that all politics is local. So what are your constituents telling you up there in the Finger Lakes region of New York? How are they taking this? Because, you know, I was told by a very smart pollster, Scott Rasmussen, not to believe polls about war support in the first few weeks because they go all over the place. So what are you hearing from the real voices in your district?
Well, this is anecdotal, but I came into town last night, and my usual flight I usually come in on either Thursday or Friday from Washington, and I was sometimes I see a lot of people I know, and sometimes I see a few, but I had absolute strangers coming up to me yesterday in the airport telling me we support President Trump 100% with what's happening in Iran. I have heard from literally hundreds of people, and I have an Iranian diaspora in my region. A lot of Persian folks have lived in my area. I had a client that was Persian and his extended family. They want President Trump, and they want the United States to work with our allies to finish this job. I think people are starting to see the real horror of what this regime is capable of. And I think we just need to have people are understanding this. I remember the horror of 9/11. I know people and young people don't remember this, but I'll never forget this video footage I saw when my son was only 10 years old, or I don't even know if he was 10 yet. I think he was just turned 10. And we are watching all these people in Afghanistan in a stadium where they were using the soccer stadium to shoot women in the head for adultery. And someone said to them, "Why are you shooting them in the stadium?" And they said, "We have nowhere else to do this." And not understanding just the primitive, horrific act of what they were doing, and watching them execute this young athlete and these other young athletes, and the terror on the faces of these young women, and to hear from the Iranian people that they are gouging out the eyes of some Iranians, killing them, maiming them, killing and murdering up to 30,000 of them.
These are savages.
Absolute savages. Absolutely,
but President Biden gave away back Afghanistan to the Taliban, and what happened to the rights of women in Afghanistan?
What happened to the rights of women in the Middle East? I mean, and I will show. There is a great example that, to her credit, Princess Rima, who is the ambassador to Saudi Arabia, she was such a force that she went in and actually changed, and is trying to change. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, which is what the conundrum is in the Middle East. She, changed the rules and said no longer do women have to wear the hijab. No longer do they have to be accompanied by men. No longer, now they can vote. She created a ministry of sports for women, so women can be represented in every sport, including every Olympic sport, even if they can't fill the spot. I was there in Saudi Arabia a couple of years ago with some people on the Shura, which is their governing body. A younger man was so excited. His 8-year-old daughter was able to participate in gymnastics, and he kept showing me videos of her. I mean, they are changing. The world is starting to change. in Iran is in the way. It's in the way of future prosperity for this region. And there are so many people there that are going to have a chance at freedom. And I think of the death of Mahsa Amini, which I mentioned in the hearing yesterday. Mahsa Amini was murdered in the hands of the morality police for not wearing her hijab in public. Now, there's controversy over how they killed her. They brought her to her death with torture, and eventually she succumbed to what they did to her. But this is what the Iranian people are standing up to with known death. They're going to die, and they're at the hands of their own government. So it's an incredible thing that could happen. And I know people think it's controversial and stunning, but what President Trump did for the Iranians was absolutely courageous, and no one else has done anything to this level to really eradicate this regime. We gave them pallets of cash. We gave them, all these chances to continue to enrich uranium. They were just very close to enriching uranium. They were hell-bent on making sure they had a nuclear weapon to protect this regime, which does nothing but carry on a terror network, which is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And that's what they do. They terrorize people in the Middle East and around the world and support Hamas and their proxies to do this. This is going to be a world-changing situation in the Middle East for people. Now, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to happen overnight, but we're seeing something that is so important on so many levels. And the people in Iran who have suffered the most are the most supportive of President Trump, and that's what I've learned.
Congresswoman, you talked about taking a flight. Let's talk about another issue going on in D.C. right now. We still have this partial shutdown, and the DHS isn't shut down. I'd love to get your comment on this because a bunch of airline CEOs the other day demanded that Congress refund the DHS so that the TSA lines can get moving. And I'm sorry, Congresswoman, that's not good enough a statement. They're saying Congress. It's not Congress. It's the Democrats in Congress. And how can they possibly expect any changes if they're not going to put the heat on the people responsible?
How can you shut down TSA when people need to travel and going through spring break? All because of what? This is what's got to be said over and over and over by the Republicans. We funded the Department of Homeland Security, including ICE, the wall, creating more detention centers and helping us with this deportation of criminal, illegal aliens and dangerous people in our country, including terrorists, including murderers, including organized crime figures. That's what we did. Now what they're doing is inflicting pain. This is Chuck Schumer and the Democrats intentionally on the American people, hoping, based on politics, that people and their use of the use of the media that is on their team and wearing the Democrat team jersey, they're hoping that the American people will blame the Republicans. We funded it. We voted on it 3 times now. The Democrats refuse to fund it. Now, let me tell you something that's also critically important in that. We also have the Coast Guard. We have the Secret Service. But our cybersecurity infrastructure is also unfunded. That is one of our biggest vulnerabilities. We learned that yesterday talking with our worldwide threats assessments with our intelligence community. The Chinese that is our biggest threat from China, is their ability to disrupt our way of life, whether it's a water system, an energy system, and that is our cybersecurity infrastructure that is now vulnerable because the Democrats want to take a stand because they don't want to deport illegal immigrants, and they stand with illegals every single day, and especially violent criminal illegals. We've seen them over and over. They keep proving it. Instead of the American citizens who are being injured physically, are having their money taken from them by fraud, and are under threat from other immigrants who have come to this country illegally with the intent to harm Americans.
Congresswoman, is there a way to get around this? Is there a backdoor way to fund the DHS? Is there, being that we're at war at this point, is there something, is there anything that's being discussed in the Republican conference about a way to do this? Because, forget about just the terrorist threat. Long lines at an airport present a very vulnerable target. We've had airport lines attacked before. LAX, you might remember that years ago. Right. This is really scary.
Yeah, it is. And I'll tell you look
the people have already paid. The average
exactly.
It's $5.60
right.
of every ticket. The passengers already paid, and they're not allowed to use the service or something. Claudia, go ahead.
Oh, I agree. Look, President Trump pulled a few rabbits out of the hat last time when they had the shutdown last fall. They found some money that was in a different, that wasn't immediately needed for the Department of Defense, so we could extend the time that we paid our troops. And we're looking now anywhere we can find an account where we can make a temporary transfer or a loan over to those accounts, because the Democrats refuse to vote. I mean, they want ICE they want to defund the ICE movement. It's defund the police all over again. It's anti-law enforcement. It's anti-law and order. It's anti-everything that our country stands for. You cannot have a free society of people that are theoretically self-governing, where we rely on the virtuousness of our public and our people in order to survive, and not have law and order and people to enforce law and order, especially when you opened our country up to criminals. And a lot of good people came in. Well, my grandparents came into Ellis Island, like so many of us, all of us. And we revere and we celebrate people coming to our country. And let me tell you something. My father was a Supreme Court justice. He served in New York City a lot, too. His most proud day when he was a judge was doing naturalization ceremonies. I have all his speeches from doing naturalization ceremonies. It meant so much to him because his parents came in. They were poor. They came from Europe. They wanted to work. They loved this country. They had a chance at freedom. And that's the people that we want to embrace, who want to come and live according to what our Constitution promises: freedom, rule of law, the ability to worship, independently, and to be protected, from domestic and external threats. The Democrats want mass chaos. They don't stand for rule of law. They don't protect the individuals. And a lot of immigrants actually object what the Democrats are doing. So this is a huge problem. We've got to find ways to fund them. I just don't know how you defund the police and think you're going to have law and order, and we can open up, we can get the country funded again. And by the way, all of this funding is really about 3% of government, but it's vital parts of government.